Oh, Liam, give me some good news.
There's a huge amount of economics and business news around today, really. But
household energy bills, big news.
We do need to get our head around this. It's not great news. Now, you'll have heard a couple of weeks ago, the government announced, or Ofgem announced, that the cap on the average household energy bill, I've put it in a graphic here for GB News TV viewers, and I'll outline it for radio listeners. The cap on average household bills is staying at £2,500 a year. There were concerns it was going to go up to £3,000. So that you think, oh, that's great, so energy bills aren't going to go up anymore. But, what's also happening today, it's the end of the across-the-board £400 payment help with energy bills that was automatically deducted that all households have been getting. So that now ends. So household energy bills are going to go up, even though the cap is staying where it is. Right. And wholesale prices are going to come down. Don't shoot the messenger. For those on benefits, over the next year, there's going to be in 3 instalments around £800 of annual support for household energy bills. And we must say, I say this all the time, if you are having trouble with your household energy bills, tell your supplier. Phone them up.
Get an
email exchange.
They never answer the phone.
Get an email exchange. They'll have an emergency email. Once you've told them and they've acknowledged that you've told them, it's much harder for them to cut you off. And if you're on a prepayment meter under current emergency legislation, they can't cut you off either. That should just be the last thing there. So tell your supplier if you are in.
I guess the fact we're going into milder weather helps a bit.
It does, and hopefully there will be some more easing in wholesale energy markets. And I'm going to come to that in a moment. Look, it has been really tough. One good bit of news, actually, is that the UK government is facilitating the creation of some LNG landing platforms. What does that mean? We've been getting a lot of our gas over recent months, particularly since the war in Ukraine, not from Norway, where we usually get it. That's carried on. And, of course, not from Russia, at least a lot less from Russia, still some. It's another story. We've been getting gas from Qatar, from America. So this is gas in those LNG ships.
This is liquid gas.
With the, liquefied natural gas with the big bubbles. You've often seen them on the television. And then we've got these landing platforms. So you don't have to build new docks where these ships can dock sort of at sea or just like on piers. And then they can convert the liquid natural gas into actual gas and then pipe it onshore. That is one bit of good news.
Clever, isn't it?
It's really, and Britain is at the forefront of this.
Right.
We have the most LNG landing platforms of any economy in Europe.
Interesting.
Is that because we've got such terrible storage facilities?
That's partly it, Bev. You and I have talked about this before. We haven't got nearly enough storage, though the Rough undersea storage facility, which Centrica was letting be made obsolete. They've done a deal with the government, and that will now start to be used again. Right. But we are very short of gas storage.
And also, we've got to talk to you about what changes to taxes now.
Indeed. So it is the beginning of the new tax year at the moment, and that means that there are lots and lots of changes. Here's a bit of good news. Again, I've got it on a graphic. The living wage, that's pretty much the same thing as the minimum wage, and this is for people above 23 years old, is going up 92p from today to £10.42 an hour. Do you remember, Andrew, it wasn't so long ago when Labour was saying we need a £10 an hour minimum wage. Well, that's what inflation does. We're now at £10.42 an hour. So, of course, Labour is saying we need a £15 minimum wage. That will be one of the key battlegrounds of the next general election. £15 minimum wage, good or bad for the economy. On the downside, council tax across the country is going up by roughly 5%.
Is that the cap? You can go no higher than 5%, isn't that right?
That's right. So they're going the full amount.
Of course they are.
Because, of course, the cap becomes the floor. That's what eventually happens. Just like student loans, up to £9,000. Yeah. In fact, they're all £9,000.
Yeah.
So that's an average of about £100 extra on the average Band D house across the country. At the same time, you know, our broadband, our mobile, our water bills, all the bills we have with private companies, many of them will be linked to the RPI, the Retail Price Index, rather than CPI. So they're going to start going up between 8, 10 or 12%. Again, don't shoot the messenger. And then corporation tax is going up from 19 to 25%.
Madness.
Now, there's a lot of spin from government, and I see a lot of broadcasters parroting it today. and some of it's true, saying that, oh, there's going to be more investment because there's going to be more allowances, capital allowances for companies. Yeah, if you're a massive firm with deep pockets that can borrow to build a lot more equipment, not if you're a small firm.
And not if you're a service industry.
And not if you're a service industry, because they don't actually make big investments in pieces of equipment.
And isn't 80-odd% of our economy, isn't it, service?
It is indeed. It is indeed. So I'm concerned about this corporation tax rise. I've been highlighting it here on GB News for a long time. Tomorrow, actually, I've got a special report I'm bringing to GB News from Birmingham. I spent the back end of last week in Birmingham, talked to lots of manufacturers, not just about the corporation tax rise, but also, Andrew and Bev, about the fact that, something I haven't mentioned here, from today, all UK companies, unless they're really energy-intensive companies like steelmakers or something, they won't get any help with their energy bills. And many of these companies, their energy bills have already tripled, and they're going to go up even more. And a lot of manufacturers across the Midlands, across those red wall seats, 30, 40, 50% of their cost base is their utility bill. And those utility bills now are going to be completely unsupported. And this is going to become a major issue. And I did an exclusive interview with Andy Street, the West Midlands mayor, who's actually, he's taking a little pop at the government on this and the Treasury, saying that they may need to change their ways.
Well, he's very independent-minded, isn't he?
He is very independent.
And quite outspoken, of course, what's happening at John Lewis, as he used to run it.
He certainly is. He certainly is. The other thing I wanted to mention, and again, we could easily be leading the news on this, is the oil price. Now, the oil price has jumped up 8% overnight.
Why?
It's jumped up because you have the OPEC exporters cartel. They control 40% of global oil production, led by the Saudis, but you've also got, UAE, you've got Qatar, you've got Iran, Iraq, Mexico, Nigeria, lots of big oil exporters. And they seem to be kind of aligning a bit more with Russia. I mean, Russia isn't part of OPEC. But this OPEC Plus group, OPEC Plus, the Russians acting together, they've decided, even though global economy is heating up and the oil price has been going up a lot lately, they've decided to cut another 1 million barrels a day from global production. That's about 1%, on top of the 2 million barrel cut that we saw a couple of months ago, to drive the price up so they make more money.
They've literally got us over a barrel.
They literally have us over a barrel, because OPEC, it only controls 40% of output, but if you combine it with the Russians, they control 90% of global oil reserves.
So that could wreck the government's entire anti-inflation strategy of getting it down.
I don't think it will wreck it. I don't think it will wreck it. It could certainly damage and dent it, because the price of oil, it's not just obviously about petrol and diesel. It's everything. Plastics, transport, freight. It impacts everything. So this is a major turning of the geopolitical screw by the Saudis. Joe Biden is saying, we must act against this. This is bad news. But look, the sort of US-Saudi alliance, which has underpinned geopolitics since the Second World War, is showing signs of cracking, partly linked, I'm afraid, to the war in Ukraine. So all this geopolitical stuff, it sounds like the academic middle common room discussions, it's going to impact you when you fill up your car or van. That's how economics works.
You make economics, which is a dry subject for most people. Fascinating.
Well, when I get a bit of time, I can tell people stuff they need to know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? Build back better, Liam. Nothing's getting built, nothing's come back, and nothing is better.
Come on, Bev, cheer up.
When's it going to happen? When is Build Back Better going to start?
I tell you what's really good.
When are we going to get out of this?
I tell you what's really good, right? I tell you what's really good. We just avoided recession, right? On Friday, well, I was up in Birmingham, so I don't think we didn't report it as much maybe as we would have if I was screaming about it in the newsroom, as I often do. But the GDP numbers show that we did grow in the final quarter of 2022. We did avoid recession. We had the Bank of England, the Office of Budget Responsibility, not just the Labour front bench, but practically the whole of the Twitter sphere, experts all saying, we're going into recession. We didn't go into recession. We avoided that 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth.
So why didn't the government trumpet the news?
You tell me. You tell me.
A positive headline.
They should have been trumpeting the news. But the reason we didn't go into recession, right, was our manufacturing sector. These doughty, resilient, small and medium-sized companies, often family-owned, often big employers in their small towns. We still have a manufacturing heartland in this country, and it's suffering now. It's got this double whammy today of a corporation tax rise and an end to support for their energy bills. But they are strong, resilient companies, and they will see us through.
Liam, thank you so much. Right.